Curse techniques in Jujutsu Kaisen have a solid range of functions, appearances, conditions, strengths, and weaknesses, often complementing the user's character, be it any of the disaster curses, Sukuna, Charles, Zakari, and more. Often used strategically and tailored to a variety of contexts, more than most battle series, they award creativity and commitment, where even a seemingly bad technique has the potential to be salvaged into something great. Consider people like Meimei or Yorozu, but some techniques are clearly better than others, and that's why we're here today, to rank them all. With that said, like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this sort of content and want to see more. This is most appreciated, and let's get into it. For all the good techniques provided in the series, many are fairly underwhelming in their effectiveness from what we've seen. Part of that surely has to do with their minimal function, and for this reason I'll be rather brief in covering those. Also, there's a few abilities I'm not sure about, usually due to a lack of use or explanation when it comes to people like Angel or Druve. But with that said, at number 40 we're starting with Miracles. This is Haruda's technique. It's a get out of jail free card. You get to undo your death 3 times, I believe. If you're on equal footing with the opponent, it's an advantage, but if the opponent has even a decent technique, they're just going to continue to beat you since you're not gaining any combat power. The technique could be useful for surprise attacking the opponent, but in Jujutsu Kaisen where most have sensory, it's just not good. Number 39 is going to be the unblockable drumming beat. This is one that does give a combat advantage with a small amount of defense bypass, though not to the extent of say Naname's, but as a punching technique, it's going to be tough against even someone wielding a sword or staff. At number 38, sadly I'm going with Chi War Staff. This ability comes with a decent ranged weapon, and if you're able to hit the opponent, you get a solid advantage in the form of precog that should let you soundly take care of an otherwise relative opponent. Number 37 is the Bato sword drawing technique. This is what Miwa uses. It's just a really fast sword swing, but I'd rather have the faster attacks to ensure I damage the opponent than an ability that only kicks in once I've hit them, in the case of Chi War Staff. At number 36, regretfully I'm going with Ratio technique. That boy Nanami got done very dirty. With a longer weapon it could be better than Nanami's little bat, but the main reason it's above Bato's sword drawing is its decent environmental destruction like we see in the fight with Mahito. Also keep in mind that while Nanami doesn't struggle with this ability requires precise aiming in combat to even go off. Your opponent is constantly moving and attacking you, so it's not a given that you'll be able to hit them where you need to consistently. Number 35, I'm going with Soul Forbidden Area, the first ability that provides an overall power increase. Urahime used this in recent chapters. With it, she can increase her curse energy output a solid amount, I'd estimate about 60%, due to its 120% version boosting another 120% technique to 200% output. Now in the context of Jujutsu Kaisen, the opponent shouldn't be able to keep up with her anymore, considering what Todo said in his fight with Mahito, that Mahito must have been at 80% to continue keeping up with him in Yuji, because 50% wouldn't have been enough, so a 60% increase should let her get a solid power and speed advantage over the opponent. Of course, the main purpose of this technique is likely in a support role, and that's why it's down here. For number 34, I'm going specifically with Momo's type of tool manipulation, the broom that can use wind attacks at long range while flying. It's going to be able to pick off a lot of these swordsmen and hand-to-hand fighters while unreachable, though this hasn't been given much effective area, so landing hits could be a challenge. Number 33 will be Blazing Courage, Maki's dad's technique. It's a bunch of fire coming out of a sword, gonna be really hard for more basic fighters to get close and do anything. That's really all there is to it. Number 32 is Gakuganji's technique. It's just energy waves that come out of his guitar. This has a good range and area of effect, making it hard to dodge. For number 31, I'll choose the Auspicious Beast. You get a homing attack. Keep in mind tracking makes this slower, a little water cushion for defense, and a Raikiri thing. Decent versatility range and a minor defense against basic attacks. At 30, I've got Moondregs. This is a decent area of effect that uses poison, so gonna be able to bypass people's defense and make it hard to get close to the user as the Shikigami stays close. 29 is Love Rendezvous, Karara's ability. This is the first confusing placement, hard to evaluate. Her ability is great at stalling, but only decent at winning fights. You'll probably get knocked out by a car or something going against it. I'm open to this being underrated, it's just very complicated. 28 is Curse Speech, with great potential but high risk against sorcerers. If they know your ability, it's likely to get hard countered, but against curses you should do quite well, being able to deal good damage and KO curses of a similar grade to yourself. 27 has a lot to it and would likely vary with the user, but here we'll just say Reggie's iteration of contractual recreation. It's got a lot of surprise potential and area of effect, even if it's stupid. From the hidden knives to the trucks and even a big house, you get a stamina buff as well to outlast a tiring opponent. For 26, I've got Straw Doll technique, Nobara's ability. This provides some simple projectiles and surprise potential by activating nails dispersed in the area, even has a decently powerful finisher with hairpin, and most importantly she can bypass your durability by attacking the soul from the inside. This can take effect even indirectly if she can get something with your cursed energy, so anything for example Reggie would send at her would be a direct opening to his chest, that this is a highly situational ability. At 25, I got Blackbird Manipulation and Bird Strike. This is a powerhouse range finisher move, just one-shotting the opponent consistently. By surpassing the limits of CE, this seemingly weak technique became pretty good. I imagine it'd be a very fast ability considering the power it provides. At 24, I've got the Anti-Gravity System. At first, I thought this was a busted ability, and it sort of is, but thinking back, this is pretty much just used defensively. It's a solid omnidirectional defense, but doesn't do any notable damage. Probably this ability has a more offensive form that would launch the opponent, but I don't want to speculate on its effectiveness. And there's a cooldown that gives the opponent time to attack you, so it's not the best technique, I'd say. At 23, this may come as a surprise, but I've got Private Pure Love Train. This is Hikari's technique. It summons little doors to catch people, which is whatever, but you really need to have a domain for this to be any good. And then in any domain clash, you've got to win it before you get anything off the ability Hikari's known for. So while the end result is super powerful, it's a highly conditional payoff, and you'd be almost just as well off with another domain if your opponent doesn't have one or you win the struggle. Now if we're talking about solely the jackpot state, this would probably be 5th on the list. Number 22 is Junichi's ability, for simply a very large AoE, with pretty good relative speeds as it's able to hit Maki even though Junichi is easily disposed of by her later. The punches seem to teleport above the opponent too, so not much dodging potential. Number 21 is Arame, similar situation to Junichi, except we've seen more versatility from Arame, where he can use this ability in a forward attack, and also buff his body parts with it. For 20, I'm going with Mechamaru's Puppet Manipulation for his ultimate form, allowing the user to boost up their attacks to a crazy high level. It has good area of effects and solid range, though the issue is it took him like 17 years to power this thing up for one fight, so not the sort of ability someone would be well off with. That said, his more basic form is decent, very good AoEs, some speed boost, shields, and whatnot. At number 19, I've got Cursed Energy Discharge or Reuse technique. This is a very simple ability, but one that not only provides long distance beam attacks with tracking, very large AoE beam attacks with Granite Blast, but also the ability to win physical clashes, and the special quality of being usable even after domain. Number 18 is Dismantle and Cleave. This ability would be really mediocre if it weren't for the fact it's seemingly invisible, but on an even playing field this ability doesn't have a ton of finishing power. Sukuna is able to damage say Gojo, but it's not like he's being dismembered by it, so I think this technique is pretty weak. Once the opponent realizes they can't see it, they'll likely start reacting to the hand sign. Number 17 is Sky Manipulation. While it doesn't have the range of many others, most of those range attacks can easily be countered and even sent back at the user like we see against Ryu. It lets you fly around, and in a hand-to-hand encounter it's really good. Icebreaker is a game-changing power punch, and as we see against Yuta, it can be used to screw up their whole close quarter strategy by warping their body. Number 16 is Disaster Flames, good old flame attacks, with targeted strikes from behind through the summoned volcanoes offering solid range and quick finishes. Ember Insects are an extension that can swarm the opponent, shrouding their vision, disorienting them with screams, and then exploding, as well as giving opportunities to land free hits on the opponent while they're occupied. Number 15 is Boogie Woogie. This ability is no joke. All of those great beam AoEs and projectiles are going right into their user when Boogie Woogie comes into play, and this works great in a close range situation, quickly able to avoid whatever's coming to hit you, with as little motion as a clap. Then you're suddenly behind your opponent, able to kick the crap out of them, as they become completely disoriented. It's a nasty ability. Number 14 is Disaster Plants. This is Hanami's technique. The roots offer great mobility, large AoEs, long and close range attacks. They can off-guard the opponent by grabbing the leg. Curse Buds can be turned into a barrage of power-draining projectiles that prey on the strong. Flower Field can be launched and suppress the will to fight, leaving them open to attacks, as well as having a supercharged beam attack. Hanami has great versatility compared to other characters. Number 13 is for the Fish God Dagon's ability, Disaster Tides. Now his water may be a poor offense, not doing much to even a far weaker opponent, but it's a great defense. Even though Naobito could mess up Dagon once it was gone, breaking his bones, this shield was keeping someone that fast and strong at bay for a time, so this shield is no joke. I don't get the logic behind it, but it works. And then Death Swarm offers an endless army of Shikigami that can make basic combat impossible for the opponent, as they have to deal with an endless wave of enemies, tiring them out and ending them. Number 12 goes to Judge Man, Higuruma's technique. Now I underrated this one for a bit, but it automatically grants domain. That alone is nuts. You then in most scenarios at least rob the opponent of their technique, disturbing their use of cursed energy. But against some sorcerers and most curses, this is robbing their cursed energy altogether, making them useless and giving a close range one-hit kill ability. So if your opponent doesn't have a domain or simple domain, you should almost always be with an advantage if you have this technique. Keep in mind Yuji was a special case where his physical strength was so good, he could hang in even after losing his CE, which is something you can't say about almost anyone else. At number 11, I'm gonna go with Curse Manipulation, specifically Kenjaku and Ghettos. This obviously has ridiculous potential. If Ghetto got Rika, things could have been real bad. But what we've seen is more so swarms of curses, flexible defense, super powered beams, a domain. and notably a conceptual defense against curse techniques, which is actually ridiculously overlooked because of how Yuki dealt with it. Speaking of Yuki, she's up next at number 10. Star Rage makes hand-to-hand encounters an absolute mismatch, just blasting through the opponent's defense with ease. An even stronger application is through a Shikigami like Garuda. By giving it and yourself ridiculous mass, striking it like a soccer ball creates an unstoppable super fastball the opponent will be helpless against. This effect alone makes Kenjaku abandon all hope of a cursed spirit battle, as this attack surpasses concepts, a strength that goes beyond the vast majority of the verse. You'd likely speed blitz all your opponents and at least stalemate against almost anyone with the black hole ability. Number 9 is Construction, specifically Yorozu's. While her and Mai have the same technique, Yorozu takes it to higher dimensions. While this technique is inefficient, once a proper application is discovered in the form of her insect armor, you pretty much just win. This gives an enormous strength and speed buff to dominate the opponent, endure basically all attacks, and while it's not as flashy as Yuki's ability, the fact you get an overall speed boost is what puts this over the edge. Number 8 is Blood Manipulation, specifically Choso's. Good at all ranges, you gain massive speed and attack buffs through Flowing Red Scale. Blood Hardening gets even crazier with one-shot punch potential and crazy durability. Supernova is amazing, an omnidirectional effect that against sorcerers is pretty much auto-death from poison. Piercing Blood is good in a fair fight, offering blitz potential at short to medium range. Once we get to 3 Bros Choso's usage of it, even someone ridiculously stronger and faster like Kenjaku had to resort to his hidden defensive technique. At number 7, it's Electric Cursed Energy or Kashima's ability. This gives a reasonable defense bypassing shock in basic combat, and probably when others attack you as well, but most importantly a point and kill can't miss function. That should bridge the gap between much faster opponents, as the movement required to use the ability is very minimal, sort of like Toto's Boogie Woogie, but when this goes off it's game over in most cases. Also, the actual curse technique with this will be busted for sure. Number 6 is Projection Sorcery. This ability is simple but simply overpowered. It's the best speed amping ability discussed so far, and continues to develop to new heights, where unfortunately the blood manipulation user is getting taken out, it's just too fast. Basically everyone gets blitzed, and even the striking power gets pretty ridiculous to the point where now you can violate Monster Maki with one hit, who has ridiculous durability amplification from her Heavenly Restriction, but this takes quite a bit of build up. At number 5 I've got Idle Transfiguration. Mahito's utterly busted technique. From the jump you're almost untouchable, any damage you take that doesn't hit the soul or is incorporated into a domain is no concern. Beyond that, the ability offers body modification that both drastically increases your attack power like we've seen against Yuji with the spear arm, massively increases your speed like we've seen against Nanami with the horse legs, it gives you fast flying, you can bypass durability by targeting the soul with your attacks, can easily off-guard people by splitting the body or popping out of a transfigured human, easily escape fights you'd otherwise lose, solid AoEs and long-range attacks. You can activate domain by forming the hand signs in your mouth even while getting beat up. It's also an extremely fast win once domain is active. For number 4 I'm going with Heavenly Restriction. This is Free Wind City. You can get speed amplification far beyond the boost of Flowing Red Scale stack, and even the charged up speeds and power of Advanced Projection Sorcery, but unlike those abilities, no activation or build time is required. It grants Omega Vision that allows you to see everything, even the soul, and beat up someone like Mahito. It also enables a really cool form of precognition, and importantly bypasses the main threat of domains, the can't miss attack. Tracking your already beyond unreactable speeds becomes even harder by eliminating the potential for cursed energy sensing. At number 3 I've got 10 Shadows technique. We've seen even against massively faster opponents the user is able to keep themselves safe. In the encounter Megami had with Toji, he couldn't even see the guy, yet the frogs are able to save him at close range. But of course the true power of this technique is summoning Maharaga. This Shikigami is ridiculously strong. Even when summoned by Megami, it's a challenge for 15-finger Sukuna. The one today is even giving Gojo a run for his money. It's crazy durable, can adapt to anything once he's hit, can erase curses and techniques with his curse tool. Aside from this, it's a very versatile technique, granting flying, healing, large distractions, and more. At number 2, I thought Yuta's technique would be a lot lower, but now it's just Rika apparently. No matter how weak you are, you get this nigh omnipotent defender. It's a being that can seemingly appear on its own, coming to Yuta's defense in a variety of situations. So unlike Maharaga that needs to be summoned first and unlocked through an almost impossible challenge, Rika will take care of everything herself, and once you train a bit she becomes this ridiculous source of power that can turn even a wimpy sorcerer like Yuta into someone who can throw hands with a special grade sorcerer. All your fights become 2v1s, and this is without mentioning the cursed tool storage, the near endless stamina she provides, or the ability to copy curse techniques and over time become an ultimate sorcerer. This is almost the most broken ability in the series I'd say, but truly the king who reigns supreme in the number 1 spot, at the summit past the horizons of sorcerers, cursed spirits, and strong fighters, the most god tier ability, it's the 6 Eyes Limitless. Yes sir, Gojo's abilities are super duper busted. First off, if they don't have domain or Maharaga, you can't be touched. Then you have infinite stamina to spam not only your technique, which Teen Gojo does for days on end, but even domains, which means in domain battles if they can't overcome yours, it'll be relaunched against the opponent who can't even use techniques anymore. But it likely won't come to that, as the unimaginable efficiency granted by the Six Eyes magnifies the effect of your cursed energy, which should grant you massive superiority in every aspect of your combat, at least comparable to the Heavenly Restriction. When used in a domain, if the opponent is even a fraction of a second off in summoning theirs, it's instant GG, as simply existing in the domain of the Limitless is game over. It also attacks the soul, which you can likely see by having the Six Eyes to begin with. If you can use Reversal Red, that means you've unlocked RCT, which once paired with the Six Eyes is unbelievably powerful, simply resisting the full brunt of someone whose domain is a match for your own, and this ability is just known throughout the entire verse to be the most feared combination of powers hands down. Kenjaku lived in utter fear of these abilities and the potential of their users. It's not like Gojo was some unrivaled genius at sorcery. He took a loss, learned from it, trained every day, and became the strongest. Also gotta mention Purple, potentially a large AoE version of Yuki's ability with the imaginary mask, though that's less certain due to recent events. But that's all for now. This was your boy Woski ranking the techniques and abilities of Jujutsu Kaisen. Hope you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later. Peace.